By the time the rebellion was hiding on the remote ice world of Hoth, Maximilian Veers was a general in the Galactic Empire's army. He had the coveted position of leading a squadron of AT-AT walkers. There are conflicting reports of his fate during this battle, but before we get there, let's talk about where Veers came from. Veers was born in 44 BBY to a middle-class working family on the ecumenopolis core world of Denon, and yes, I had to practice saying that word a few times. In ecumenopolis is a planetary body whose surface is covered entirely by a single sprawling metropolis, the most notable being Coruscant. At just 11 galactic standard years old, Veers joined the naval cadets of the Galactic Republic. He served under Captain Peel Balo. Balo's story is worth a quick aside. He trained cadets at the Defiance Flight Training Institute for the Galactic Republic and then the Galactic Empire that followed it. Despite a lifetime of service, Balo saw through Emperor Palpatine. He planned to sacrifice his own life to assassinate Palpatine. His plan was to drive the Star Destroyer Defiance into the sun of the planet Christophsis. Unfortunately for Balo, Vader was onto him. He stopped the Star Destroyer from flying into the sun and strangled Balo to death. Veers had a different view on allegiance. His time as a cadet ended and he moved into military service. When the Empire took over, he stayed loyal and became an officer in the army. During his time as an enlisted man, he met a woman, married, and started a traditional family. He rose through the ranks quickly. His loyalty wasn't the only attribute that helped his rise. He was a smart tactician and courageous warrior. He didn't just send men below him into combat, he fought alongside them. His talents earned him a spot on the Death Star, a commission that any officer loyal to the Empire would have loved to receive. One specific meeting later in Veers' career really shows his constitution as a man. Veers and Admiral Ozzel went to Vader's castle on Mustafar. Ozzel described the Rebel Alliance as vermin that needed to be exterminated. Veers stepped in and compared them to weeds instead, with the Empire being the storm. He explained that weeds don't break in a storm. They bend, but when the storm passes, they're largely unharmed. Being able to stand and contradict a superior officer in front of another superior officer, and that second one being the most intimidated figure in the Imperial military, showed confidence and backbone in Veers that few others would ever muster. The Death Star would serve as Veers' home base, but he was a ground troops leader. During the Battle of Yavin, Veers was either on a campaign elsewhere or perhaps actually had some time at home with his family. Either way, he was not aboard the battle station when Luke Skywalker, a young rebel pilot, would make a fateful, near impossible shot and destroy the entire station, killing everyone on board. Not only did Veers survive by not being on board, but he was further promoted as so many important Imperials with high positions were killed. He jumped up to general. The Empire was frantic after the losses seen over Yavin 4. Governor Johar Kessin, who was once a senator, was believed a traitor to the Empire. It was believed that Kessin was working with the emboldened Rebel Alliance. Veers was tasked with hunting Kessin down, killing any rebels who got in his way, to question Kessin about the location of the Alliance's new base. It doesn't look like Veers was able to track Kessin down. He was not penalized for his failure in this mission, but his career didn't advance either. Veers impressed the right people yet again. He was stationed aboard Darth Vader's personal flagship, the Super Star Destroyer Executor, during Project Swarm. This initiative saw thousands of probe droids spread across the galaxy, searching every nook and cranny for the fleeing rebellion. The rebels struck a massive blow against the Empire when they destroyed the Death Star and fled to Makota. The Empire caught up to the Rebel Alliance at Makota and thinned their numbers greatly. The rebels fled again to Hoth, but the Empire took time in locating them. Originally, Major Yaltza was in charge of Swarm. Vader grew impatient with his lack of results and killed him. Veers was put in charge next. He didn't receive a promotion for this new dangerous position, but Veers saw it as an opportunity to prove himself once again. Looking for anything that could give him a leg up, Veers didn't just sit and wait for the droids to bring in data. He consulted with experts across many disciplines. Circumstances led him into going on an expedition with a team of archaeologists, including an interesting character that there will be a follow-up transmission on, Chelly Aphra. This mission didn't get Veers closer to the rebels, but it's a cool side story where Veers puts his boots on the ground to try and get things done. One of the Viper Pro droids from Swarm reported a small occupied settlement in the Anote sector. This remote sector was in the Outer Rim and had many planets. One of these planets was Hoth. Vader was sure the rebellion was there despite a lack of real evidence. Ozzel wasn't so sure, but he did as he commanded. He brought the Imperial fleet to the Hoth system. Veers readied his ground troops for an assault. Ozzel, overconfident in the might of the fleet, thought that it would be an intimidating surprise for the rebellion if he jumped right in their faces. He jumped the ships into the sensor range of the Rebel Alliance, giving them ample time to throw up a planetary shield, prepare ground defenses, and begin an evacuation plan. Vader was unhappy to learn this news, to put it lightly. He killed Ozzel for his miscalculation. Veers knew this ground assault was a moment to shine, even if it would mean more casualties. He brought down AT-AT walkers, walking fortresses Veers fancied having a similar constitution to. Veers was in the lead walker, Blizzard 1, leading his troops from the front of the battle. Casualties on both sides were high. The Empire could take it. They had a deep bench. Veers ate the losses and targeted the base's shield generator, opening the Rebel base's front door, allowing Vader to land with reinforcements and storm the base. This is the point in Veers' story where things get a little contradictory. Blizzard 1 had a T-47 airspeeder fly directly into the walking tank's cockpit, which looked like the hulking beast's head. Some accounts say that Veers died here. Others say the armor of the walker ended up saving his life, though he did sustain some serious injuries. In the version where Veers survives, medics got to him. He was able to follow his forces into the Rebel base behind Vader's own troops and gave a strong showing before the battle's end when he was brought to a medical center. Even in this version of the story where Veers survived, this was the last time he makes a mark significant enough to be taken down in Imperial record. He may have been given a promotion so grand it needed to be kept secret, he could have succumbed to his injuries, or he could have gotten a big head for his part in the assault and tried to take credit that Vader didn't necessarily want him to have, so Vader did what he does to so many officers in the Imperial military and killed Veers. There's no answer on this. The contradiction on his death comes from outside the universe. In the shooting script of Empire Strikes Back, the scene is written that the snowspeeder crashes into the head of Veers' walker. It says that Veers dies here. That scene never made it into any cut of the movie. It does appear in the Empire Strikes Back novelization, which was based on the shooting script. Veers has further stories proving he was alive in the expanded universe, now deemed Legends, and was in a LEGO special on Disney Plus where he's the primary villain. If the LEGO special were canon, the events would take place after the events outlined in this transmission, but the LEGO specials are just fun little things to watch and add to some Star Wars stories. I tend to think Veers survived and was simply lost to time. His death wasn't in the movie, so it didn't happen. Some other events had been written, even shot in George Lucas's movies, that don't count toward canon because they were cut. Jedi Master Shaak Ti is a perfect example. She had been killed multiple times, with her scenes never making the final cut of the project it was shot for, so she didn't technically die all those other times. Check out this transmission next for more villains from the Star Wars galaxy.